Welcome to Gulfstream today. Ron Nicoletti, along with Gabby Gaudet. Beautiful day in South Florida, a little on the warm side.
It's a little bit on the warm side, but we were, graced with excellent weather last weekend on opening weekend. You couldn't have asked for a better day on Saturday on Claiming Crown Day, and today it's a little bit on the warmer side, but getting excited for an excellent week on tap here.
Yeah, we got a fast-made track. We got a firm turf course this afternoon. A couple of really nice carryovers, as we'll tell you about as we run through the wagering menu today. We're going to start it off like we do each and every day with the rolling super high five. We got a carryover in that over $2,500, and we also have one of two pick fives. You're going to have a ticket in race number one for your early pick five.
I will. It's a little bit of a tough sequence just because they're kind of cheaper level maidens and claimers as well. Sometimes it's hard to find a single in those types of races, but we'll get right through it. And of course, the early pick five, that is a mandatory payout.
Mandatory payout. We got the Rainbow Six, which starts in race number 5 with a 10-race sequence and over $22,000 in that pool. So that one's starting to build. And we end the day with your final pick five of the afternoon.
And we'll get to that pick five later. I allocated a few more funds there for the late pick five. I thought it was a little bit tougher, but still like a single in the late pick five. You have a Rainbow Six, so we'll see if we agree on any of the sequences.
Yeah, I got a single a little later on, but when we get to that portion of the show, we'll see if we do match up. The first race today is a 5.5 furlong sprint. These are claim is 3 and up, $6,250, and we do have a scratch on the inside of the number 1 Prague. One of the horses had on my ticket, and I believe you did on top of your ticket, if I remember seeing your selections on the tip sheet. But you do have your pick five ticket starting now.
I do. We'll take a look at that pick five ticket. Of course, that one does scratch out of today's opener, was my top selection, but hopefully we can get through with these 3 horses. Didn't use your current favorite at 5-2. That horse is a little unreliable. We'll get to that one in a second, but using 6, 8, 9 for the first leg of the sequence, spreading in race 2 with 4 horses. Going to be keen off of the 7 in race 3. Now that is a maiden claiming event. I never ever do that. I never trust maiden claimers, especially as a single proposition. But again, I thought it was very tough to single in any other leg of the sequence. So trying to keep this on the cheaper side and use this as kind of a base, a platform to build upon. If you want to throw in another horse in that leg of the sequence, by all means do so. And then capping it off with 3 by 2 in the early pick five.
Yeah, and it's you always should try and find a single in there to keep it affordable. $36, certainly very affordable. I started it off in this race with the number 8, the Sher Khan, and this is the one I always had on top of my ticket, cutting back to 5.5. I thought a couple of solid outings at 3/4 mile. He's beating the neck at this level and distance. That was 2 starts back. Slow starting 4th behind some hard-knocking competitors last time out. Express Jet, you remember, came back and finished 3rd in the Claiming Crown on Saturday. Also Blings Express and Mitos y Leyendas. So these horses, if you cover racing in South Florida or bet racing in South Florida, you know the names of these horses. They are hard-knocking runners.
Yeah, I took a little bit of a hiatus, obviously, going to the Mid-Atlantic and New York for a couple of months, but I still am well familiar with these claimers. They run frequently. You can see some of these running a lot of times so far this year. But Sher Khan, I agree with you now. He was my second selection. I'll pick him on top. I just thought 2 starts back, he kind of should have won that race. It was an easy field. He went slowly up front. He was beaten at 90 cents to the dollar. I don't know if that's really his preferred running style. Maybe he's a horse that likes to take back a bit, and he does like this track locally, a 3-time winner at Gulfstream. So he's one to definitely use, and maybe another one to throw into the exacta run would be the 9, Right on Ready. First time for Fernando Abreu. You look at this horse last time out, did draw the rail post position. I thought his hand was a little bit forced drawing the rail post, but now today he draws an outside where that gives him the ability to kind of decide where he wants to go, but he still has some natural speed. He just won't be so forced this time.
And I think it helps with the scratch of the 1 because it looked like Prague from the inside was going to have to go. So I think this horse may benefit from the scratch that we mentioned about. Loves this track. 18 races with 6 wins. Want to mention the 6 All About Diva, dropping a notch, going back to the main track today. Returned from about a 3-month layoff to set the pace and fade. It was an 8 claimer going 5 panels on the turf. Want to show show you a stat on George Navarro. Over the last 5 years with the turf to dirt, these are low-level claimers. He's 6 for 35, 17%, 43% in the money with a very low ROI of $1.20 because they bet this guy all the time. And I just wanted to point that out. This is against low-level claimers. Not what you normally see from him. You usually see those 30%, so maybe it's a little bit of a cautionary tale.
Exactly. And now sometimes with these horses, I think you want to use them protectively. Of course, this is the first leg in the pick 5. You don't want to be knocked out by a horse that fits, that's trained by George Navarro. But I think he's one that you could probably try to beat. He does have some early speed. I think he should be able to get pressured from the outside. Maybe it's a horse that will benefit from the scratch of the one that you said, but does have a little bit of a rating gear. I'm curious to see what the approach is stylistically for the 6 All About Diva.
Well, let's go to race number 2 this afternoon. We're going to go to the turf. Turf course is firm. This is a 1 mile and 1/16 maiden claimer for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, and they run for that $35,000 tag. I know we both had some interest in a horse that's scratching here, and that's the number 4 Majestic Trick. So we'll wait till that horse runs down the road in here. And how'd you see the second race?
I took a look at the 9 backsplash to the outside for trainer Ralph Nick. She draws an outside post position today, and when they first started her, they sprinted her on the dirt. Her first 2 starts gave her some time, brought her back, stretched her out to the mile, and I thought it was kind of encouraging that she showed she can go 2 turns on the turf. And unfortunately, it looked like she was acting up a little bit in the gate. Watching the replay, she was rearing up, kind of popping up in the gate. And then when she broke, she got bumped a little bit coming out of the gate. Unfortunately, the winner went wire to wire in that race behind a slow pace. There was really no horses making up any bit of ground, and I thought she was. So with any bit more of a pace today, which I think she'll get, I think that'll move her forward.
Yeah, I mean, I got her on the ticket. I'm surprised you don't have the 3 on the ticket, but that's the beauty of handicap. I'm talking about City Section. This one is making a local return. The first start, she encountered double trouble in that race. She was checked at the 8 pole and the 16 pole. The horse in that race ducked Ray out in that race and really caused her to have to, put on the brakes. Still managed to finish 4th. Was on the turf. Was up at Aqueduct. I just thought City Selection with that trouble call might be a logical contender in here.
She could. I think I overlooked her. I know she did experience a lot of trouble last time out, but what about all those times that she has faced maiden claimers prior to that?
Yeah.
She sometimes has gotten beautiful trips and just hasn't been able to seal the deal. She's been going against that maiden 40,000 type of caliber, albeit up in New York, and this field might be a little bit easier to manage, but I'm going to go against her here just because she's really starting to stack up those defeats with or without trouble. There was one horse that kind of caught my attention, the 2 Make Me, and she only has 1 try on the turf, and that was actually last year in December. You look at her races on the dirt, though, Ron, they were really nothing impressive either, whereas this year I thought she's really improved on the dirt as a 4-year-old, and not to mention her lone turf start. She did experience some trouble in that race, and not to mention that was a very tough maiden special. We saw Truly Together, a horse that finished 3rd in there, go on to break her maiden in her next start. She would eventually win an A other than, a 2 other than, so these are some really competitive types of horses, and not to mention too, that race was followed by a year layoff, so maybe something went a little bit amiss in that one and then kind of recouped her for this.
Yeah, I just wasn't enamored with the turf breeding, so, I put it on the ticket, but I wanted to watch one. But, we mentioned the scratching of Majestic Trick. That was from the Michael Matz barn, so he left a horse in here, and that's the 8 Intractable. And this one drops after breaking from a tough post last time out, failed to fire, but it was a really good race, and I'm going to defer to you up at Laurel. Produced 3 next out winners from 8 starters.
They did, or that race did, and I think the class relief will definitely help her. We saw Talk Less, Smile More. She actually came back to win an A other than. Next out, Giovanni Blues, a 2nd starter. She came back to win, I believe, a maiden special weight up at Woodbine. And she just, I haven't quite figured out this filly because I don't know if she prefers to go to the lead where she was 2 starts back, if she wants a pace and closing into it. She just kind of seemed a little bit one-paced lately, but maybe the class fast relief will wake her up.
Yeah, and I added it to the ticket as it went along with the scratch of the horse, like I mentioned, Majestic Trick. And I sort of like that angle, where you got two in the race, you scratch one out, Edgar Prado ride, leave the other one in. So maybe that's something you want to look for. Don't forget, this is our first of two pick fours starting right here in race number 2. Let's go to race number 3 this afternoon. And this is where you singled in your early pick 5 ticket with that number 7. 6 furlongs, maiden claiming fillies, 2-year-olds. They run for that $35,000 tag. And here we do have a scratch of the 6, Sonder, in there. And one of the horses that I had on the bottom part of my ticket. But tell us about the 7. There goes Bella.
This is a bit of a dicey proposition, to be honest, but it was very difficult. I thought race 2 was a race that you could get some value in, so spreading in that race. And whereas in here, you have There Goes Bella. She was well defeated last time out as the favorite, but it was behind a runaway winner. She tried to make the lead in there. It didn't work out. She just wasn't the fastest. She had an inside post that day. Today she has the outside. She has a controlling position. She has speed. There are some other horses who are inside that could have speed. But I just felt most confidently about her in this particular race. I see you agree.
Yeah, I agree. And Jane Sabelli's the trainer. Joel Rosario named to ride. Now, I thought with all the reasons you mentioned was the one to beat in here. The other horse we were in agreement with our exacta, Faith and Hope, making the 3rd start of her current form cycle, stepping up the competition. I thought she ran an improved second. It was a $25,000 maiden test. It was across town at Gulfstream Park West. Off that performance, I think this horse earns a spot on the ticket.
For sure. And that's the thing, is that I thought Faith and Hope, she definitely fits this race. It's not that competitive of a race, comparable to some of the fillies that she's been facing before. She just kind of has an awkward middle ground type of speed. She's not the fastest to go to the lead. She's been known to kind of just chase the winner home. So I wasn't crazy about her. So that's why I kind of led to the single in here, just because she was kind of just an alternative for me.
Yeah, and it's basically how I saw the race. I mean, I'm in total agreement with you that the 7 is the one to beat in here. I used the first-time start on the inside dealer's girl, daughter of Garner Strait debuting. It's 6 workouts. None of them jump off the page at you. Got the Paco Lopez, lay 6, the inside post. Always adventurous, that inside post.
Exactly. And even you have another horse in here, the 5, Dressed in Heels. She technically is dropping from restricted maiden special weight company. I could have potentially used her, as she is a class dropper, whereas others are first-time starters with no exceptional works, or some that are stepping up in class. So kind of a tough race to get through, but hopefully we can get through it with There Goes Bella.
Well, you sold me on the 7 there. You had a good...
Okay. Good. I don't think I sold myself yet.
Race number 4 this afternoon, a mile claimer, 3 and up, non-winners of 2 in life, $6,250. And as it is at Gulfstream Park, a full field that you have to get through here. 11 runners, no scratches, no jockey changes. Not an easy thing. And you went to the inside with the 1, Darrow D.
I did, and in this race, in terms of the early pick 5, Ron, I went with 2 horses that should show some early speed. We always see that to be excellent attribute, especially on the main track here at Gulfstream. But I also, too, went with a closer, as you can see, with my top 3 selections. So that's all that I'm going with the early pick 5. But the 1, Darrow D, I just like the stretch out and distance for this 3-year-old gelding. Ralph Nix, he does well with horses stretching out from sprints to routes, especially at this claiming level. And I think from the rail posts, after adding blinkers on last time out, could potentially dictate if they're aggressive straight out of the gate.
Horse likes to finish second, but, so we got to
That's the key, is that she just has to go to the lead. Just go on with her and let her speed kind of take her.
Ralph Nix, you mentioned, he's 16% with horses going from 2 sprints to a route. Hopes that added distance help cure that chalk burning status. I did go to the inside. The horse that you have on the bottom side of your ticket, Dane's Pulpit, going to try this 1-turn mile locally after moving to the Fernando Abreu barn, going from turf to dirt, finishing second, was the favorite that afternoon, going to 2-turn mile across town. Antonio Gallardo in the saddle. I've always watched these races from cross town at Gulfstream Park West. 2 turns going to this elongated sprint, basically a 1-turn mile. And I think that's the reason I think this horse is going to run well with just having to negotiate that 1 turn.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the only reason why I didn't really like him, he's got some back numbers to maybe work off of, and that was one of his better performances last time out. Maybe the track will help him here at Gulfstream. We saw it play very fair last weekend. I just visually, I went back and watched the replay. He just really flattened out and just, I thought, kind of gave a lackluster effort. But if he can improve upon that, he could be contentious here. You look at horses to the outside, Ron, and talking about horses who should go to the lead, I think the 11, Heredias, should probably pressure the pace of the 1 who potentially might go. This horse has a little bit of early speed, showed some speed against higher level maiden claimers, and that was sprinting. So with that added distance, you would think should be able to press. And then we, of course, have the 10 Buster Rocks, who I think will be picking up the pieces if that pace scenario does ensue and kind of falls apart in front of him.
Yeah, you think the 11 has to go out there. I mean, put him on the ticket, and always if you can get a good position early on, might be dangerous in there. We also use the 8 Nacho Giant, stepping up to face winners, stretching out that additional furlong after dueling throat. Held on gamely. Now, this was only 10,000 maidens. It was going 7/8 of a mile, but in a wide open affair, was sort of enamored with that performance, so earned a spot on my ticket. So that is race number 4. With that said, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll show you my Rainbow 6 ticket.
January 28th at Gulfstream Park, an icon takes flight. The world's richest thoroughbred horse race. 12 of the sport's finest horses. One race. $12 million on the line. Watch, wager, witness. Go to PegasusWorldCup.com for more.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. It's Ron and Gabby, and we're going to take a look at the 5th race. It's a 1-mile maiden claiming event for 2-year-olds, $12,500. And we start the Rainbow 6 here. Are we going to make it easy? No, we got 13 runners in the field. So I settled on 3 in my ticket. Let's go. It's $43.20. And I went 3 deep in here. I just think these are the logical 3 in here. Then you see 3 deep in the 6, and you'll see in race number 7, we were talking off the air. My day is keying on this number 11 in the 7th race, Giant's Voice. And I used the horse that you like in race 8. That is the 3, Big Air. You see the rest of the progression, and a little bit of a long shot with the 1 in race number 10. We'll talk about that when we get to that race in our analysis. But 1, 4, and 11 here. I started it off with the 11 horse, and that's Randy Sr., who's dropping to this level today on the main track after a pair of 3rd place finishes on the turf at the $25,000 level. Kathleen O'Connell, solid with the turf to dirt angle. Nothing that jumps off the page at you. 15%. Journeyman Eduardo Nunez handling the surface chains today. All things being equal, they certainly are in this race. I thought this was one of the illogical contenders.
It's funny you say that, all things being equal. Every majority of horses in this race are extremely equal. They're on kind of a level playing field, and it's hard to be really confident about a horse in here, but it's also hard to be really confident in going against a horse in here. So I think you're right on track with using a couple different horses. I did use the 11 Randy Sr. I was just a little bit disappointed by his race once he was last out on the main track. He just kind of followed home horses, and he was beaten as the heavy favorite. And watching the replay without a tremendous amount of excuses. So I will respect him, obviously, Ron. I think he's got a form that would make him competitive in this race. The 4 Always Dude is one that I used, but this is another one who's just been burning a lot of money at the windows, too.
Yeah, he never got on track, you know, after returning from the layup over at Gulfstream Park or West. Jose Pinchin, Luis Saez handling the surface switch. So I just thought maybe with going back to the main track, like he said, they're very equal in here, and this is a horse that I threw on my ticket. I went to the inside with my 3rd pick, Rosebud's High, was departing from that inside post. Duel for the lead, weak and late, finished 4th against Similar. That was, once again, that 2-turn mile across down. I think he's got to go. He's going to be running. He's going to be gunning as soon as they pop that gate latch. I think he's the one that goes. Maybe he steals. You know, we talked about the 11 Randy Sr. This horse has to carve out a trip. It is not easy, you know, to negotiate a full field of 13 runners.
Absolutely. You had the one Rosebud's High down on the inside. I think this is a horse who might be better sprinting, but he could get aggressive and go to the lead from the inside. Sometimes in these races, it's always to your advantage if you have some speed, because they just don't really have the will to win and kind of close. The 6 Big Twist was one that kind of intrigued me for the connections. They really limited sample size, so I didn't want to show a stat on this, but with their maiden claimer second starters, they do an all right job, and I thought that this horse could improve without a distance.
Yeah, and the barn does fantastic. Trainer Francisco D'Angelo, they've been doing great all summer long, so a good angle there. And as we mentioned, just a wide open race with the 13 runners, and that's the beauty of the Rainbow Six, because you got a single somewhere, or
Good luck.
Well,
That's a tough one.
well, you got the pick 5 you have to go with now, and this one is race number 6. It is 1 mile and 1/16 on the turf. It's claimers, fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up, non-winners of 2 in life, 30,000 down to 25,000. Got a jockey change and a couple of scratches. Jockey change comes on the 5. Make the Ryan Gazziter also scratch the 9, and that AE number 13 in their card is spun. And I went with a horse on top, Smart Romance. I know you used this on a ticket. I'm curious to see if you used it on your pick 5 ticket.
I absolutely did. I went with 3 horses to start off the sequence with the 2, 4, and the 6. I think the 2 El Vedado, fresh off a victory, should be pretty tough in here, but backing myself up with 2 others, spreading in race 7, and that is where your single is.
I was just looking at that.
That's kind of funny. I just thought, yes, the Todd Pletcher horse is probably the horse to beat in there, but we could make this ticket a little bit more valuable if we try to beat that horse in there. Singling on Big Air in race 8, the number 3 horse. I think he's low in speed in there. I love the fact that he's going 5 furlongs, very fast horse. So singling on him, using 4 horses in race 9 and 2 in the 10th for a $60 ticket. And maybe you could use a couple different horses in the last leg. I thought hopefully we get to the last leg of the sequence.
Yeah, it's a tough sequence, both of them, the late pick 5 and the Rainbow Six. Now, I know you had some interest in on the number 6 horse, and your publicist on top of your ticket making his first start. Since I thought a really good performance. It was a head swirling maiden score over 3 rivals. It was a race, moved from the turf to a sealed sloppy track. Didn't beat a lot of horses in there, but it was a pretty nice performance. And this is a daughter of Cowtown Cat.
Yes, and looking at the last race, it was the first time on the main track for quite some time, but that was the first time that they dropped her in for a tag, and I thought that definitely helped her. I think she just needed a bit of a class relief, and even prior to that, her race 2 starts back in August at Gulfstream against Maiden Specialweight Company was not bad at all. It looked like, watching the replay, she was a bit covered up and just couldn't make her move at the right time. Ron, overall, she kind of looks a bit one-paced, so I hope they get aggressive with her and send, because there's not a tremendous amount of speed in here other than the 2 El Vedado, so maybe she could use her natural speed to her advantage.
Yeah, El Vedado, I think you have a performance of El Vedado in its last race that you wanted to show?
Yes, we could definitely show that. We'll go to the 2 El Vedado last time out, and this is when they were aggressive with this filly. She kind of woke up once managing to get to the lead, but they didn't go that quickly, Ron. They went 24-2, 50 flat, 115 flat, and she just kind of carried it on home. So I thought that was to her advantage, that she could dictate in there. I don't know if she's going to be able to get that type of scenario. That's why I hope my top selection gets aggressive and kind of pressures her a bit.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get a 50 half here.
No.
I don't see that happening at all. Now, the horse that I did put on the top is the 4 Smart Romance, one of the horses I was alluding to that I hoped you used on your ticket. This is a previous winner on this course, had 5 races here with a win in his second. It's back, returned from a layoff to stalk the pace, finished 4th against Simler over at Gulfstream Park West. And I just thought that this, off that performance, Chuck Simons, the trainer, pretty good with the layoff.
Oh, absolutely. And looking at her last race, I believe we have a video spotlight of her going into the first turn, because it was kind of awkward. We didn't show her finishing, I don't believe. We just out of the gate going into the first turn. She is the number 4 horse in this race. She breaks sideways, which it was kind of weird. It took her a couple strides to finally find her feet and get going. And then, not to mention, if you can see on the screen, she does look like a big, good-looking filly, and much tighter turns there at Gulfstream Park West. It looked like she was having a little bit of difficulty kind of gathering herself going into the first turn. She loses a little bit of ground as well. Like she couldn't cut those tight turns, as you can see. Bumping the horse to her outside, once again being knocked off stride a bit. So not only with that performance, breaking a bit awkwardly, being a bit awkward going into the first turn, as you mentioned, Chuck Simon has great stats with his horses second off the layoff. If we could show that stat, second off the layoff with turf routers, 22% out of 27 horses, and a positive ROI of $2.86. So the logic here is that this filly can improve after an okay performance last out.
Yeah, and I'm hoping you're right, because I got it right on top of my head. I like this horse. This horse really made a beautiful appearance in the paddock over at Gulfstream Park West. And one of the reasons, I know the barn was high on it, and you showed the trouble that it had right from the get-go, coming out of the gate sideways, getting bopped around a little bit in those tight turns with the rail being out as far as it was that afternoon. So on top of my ticket. Now, the morning line favorite in here is Magician's Vanity, who will face these non-winners of 2 lifetime claimers. You know, as the favorite, he finished third against 25 optional claimers on the Laurel turf. This is definitely the easiest spot she's ever faced.
It is, but last time out, you know, I thought she should have won that race. She was the favorite, and looking at her and looking at her back class, comparable to the rest of the field in there, she was the best on paper. She was coming out of Stakes Company. I know it's a restricted Stakes Company, as she faced on Maryland Million Day and even Virginia Breds in the race prior to that, but those were pretty good fields, and then she finally got a bit of a class relief last time out, and she couldn't seal the deal. My main concern with her is the lack of overall pace in this race and the tendency of her to be a little bit pace dependent.
Yeah, she's pace dependent, and you know she hasn't won since breaking a maiden back in 2015.
It's been a while,
so it's been a while. I don't think she should have been the morning line favorite here, but what do I know? I'm not doing the morning line, so I just think she belongs on the ticket. But I didn't want her on top today. Let's go to race number 7 in here, and this one's 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Maiden claiming 2-year-olds, $25,000. Scratch the alsos 13, 14, 15, and number 16. And please note that the number 12, is a gelding in here. What'd you write on my paper here? Well, we'll talk about that later on. Number 11. Number 11 is the horse that, if you remember in my Rainbow Six where I singled Giant's Voice. Let me tell you why. Drop it to this 25 level. Going back to the turf after returning from a freshening, I thought the horse finished a useful fourth. It was a $50,000 maiden test going from 7.5 furlongs on the turf. And when they did that over there at 7.5 furlongs on the turf, it reverted to 7 furlong sprint on the main track. So it was a whole different ball game. It is Todd Pletcher, Javier Castellano. It's a combination drop-down surface switch, all those things being equal or not being equal. I think this horse jumps off the page a little bit in here and maybe on the connections, but I had to find a single somewhere. Would I like to go deeper? Absolutely, yes. It's not a horse I'm running to the window and saying, get out of my way. I can only bet this horse. But it's a horse I had to make the ticket seem okay.
It's just a huge field in here, and this horse definitely wants to go 2 turns on the turf. You can see by his races at Monmouth, he just prefers to go a little bit farther. And unfortunately, as you said, the race was turned to cut back to the 1 turn 7/8 last time. So this is the better spot for him, and technically he's dropping from maiden special weight company to the maiden $25,000 tag. It's a huge drop. He is the one to beat with that class relief. I just thought he might be compromised by that outside post position. He's definitely not the fastest in here, and as we all know, it's a short run into the first turn going this distance on the turf. So I tried to beat him with a horse that drawed a better post position, and that is the 4 Luck is Back. By Put It Back, you look on the bottom side of the pedigree run, and the mare was actually a 2-time winner on the turf. She got about an 84 Beyer speed figure in one of her better performances on the turf, and the mare has also produced another turf winner. So I think the intention was to get this horse on the turf first out. Didn't happen. Now getting to the right spot today.
Yeah, I'm wearing blinkers this afternoon. Certainly a fantastic price if you're in agreement. 20-1 on the morning line. And those are the type of horse races where it can blow up the Rainbow Six and you get yourself a nice ticket in there, or your late pick 5, as we were talking about.
Absolutely. We even have another horse that you and I both agree, the 2 Crown Lake, to the inside. And this is a horse I thought ran an okay performance. I thought this horse definitely improved getting to the turf. I was more impressed by this horse's performance than Cosentino's.
Yeah, and this one getting Lasix, got Lasix last time, and I think that really helped. And you get Paco Lopez this afternoon. Cosentino, listed as a gelding now, is hoping to find a little more for the stretch drive. Hit the board in consecutive races at this level of distance. Larry Pilati, second-time blinkers today, and I think that might be the key for Cosentino to take that other jump forward and maybe win this maiden claiming event.
And Cosentino, as you said, these two horses hooked up back on the 29th of September. In Cosentino's race that particular day, I really thought that he had no excuses, had a perfect trip, but that said, he has had blinkers added in his last start, so maybe he could turn the tables. But out of that race, I prefer Crown Lake.
Crown Lake it is then. Yeah, it's a tough, I went with the 11, and that's the beauty of these tickets that we put together. You know, we got our differences of opinion, but we're certainly in agreement in race number 8. 5 furlongs on the turf, claim is 3 and up, non-winners up 2 in life, $16,000. Hey, once again, a full field of 12 runners in here, but you like Big Air, and this is the one you singled on your ticket.
I do. I just think that he is going to be the fastest early. We'll take a look. And this is going back quite a ways to actually the summer at Laurel. This was on the 3rd of July. Ron, he just pops out of the gate so quickly, and sometimes I'm almost concerned that his feet won't go faster than what he wants to do because he's just so fast coming out of the gate. And that was the case with him here at Laurel this day. He went to the lead under Yomar Ortiz. He opened up on the field. It looked like he was home free, unfortunately, at 20-1. Unfortunately, Magician's Bullet did run him down on the outside. But the key to this, Ron, you can see him switching leads just there, maybe getting a touch tired. At Laurel, the 5.5 furlongs, it goes to the second wire finish. So it's kind of a longer stretch run. I think the key for this horse is 5 furlongs, and hopefully he makes the lead, which I think he will. He's very fast.
Yeah, look, just off that, he looks like he's going to get the lead. You mentioned turning back to that half a furlong to 5 furlongs here, and always been a strong ally to have is the speed coming out of the gate here, especially when you're dealing with big fields, which you can get that position early on, and you don't have to deal with carving out a trip. I went to the number 9 and second, a horse that you had somewhere on your ticket. Awesome My Way is dropping to this level today, which is the $16,000 level. Got knocked sideways soon after the start. Finished 4th. There was a 30 condition claimer going 5 furlongs. Across town at Gulfstream Park West, Joe Ursino, Paco Lopez going to be in the saddle again. Got bopped around pretty good at the start in that last race.
He did, and hopefully he gets off to a better start today. But the bad thing about a horse like this is when you do have a presence of a horse like Big Air, and then you have a horse like Awesome My Way, who looks like he wants the lead. I don't think he'll get it, and unfortunately he might be left on the Mary Chase from there, and it doesn't look like a position that he necessarily wants to be in. So tactically, I think he might be at a disadvantage, whereas I kind of like a horse, the 4 Red Cat, to the inside. I know they've dabbled with this horse, stretching him out in distance for the past couple of starts. He's been going 2 turns for quite some time, and I know he won going the flat mile in September here at Gulfstream, but I thought that was kind of coincidental. I thought everything went his way that day. He managed to make the lead, just went average fractions. But if you look at his back races, especially when he went against maiden claimers, he looks like a horse that can be a closing sprinter. And if anybody hooks up with Big Air, or say Big Air gets a little bit short, as he has been known to do in the past, I think this is a horse who could pick up the pieces.
Now, I'm so happy to see that you had the number 10 Blackjack Baby on your ticket. This is the one I'm enamored with in this particular race. Brother, on both sides of the family tree to like the grass, was eliminated to start in his only previous turf race that was back here. It was in July. Now goes back to the grass today after showing speed in weekly late. It was a 2 lifetime claimer going 7 furlongs on the dirt. I think this horse is sneaky good in here, and actually wrote my analysis today. Do not ignore this horse. I think this horse can be on, if not win it, be on the ticket.
I love lawn rows on the turf, no matter where they're going or what they're doing. They're always ones that you really want to pay attention to, a fantastic turf sire. And like you said, in his first start, eliminated at the start, and he also had a tendency to be a bit green throughout the running of that race. And also, Ron, I think he's better sprinting. That was going 2 turns mile. That was his first start. Sometimes it's very hard to prepare a horse to go 2 turns on the turf first time out. But since then, I think faces better company, cuts back in distance, and not to mention a couple of those horses in there went on to do decent things. The winner, JoJo's Dream, talking about his turf debut, has been running into kind of the mid to upper 70 buyer speed figures, which would be very competitive against this field.
So Blackjack Baby, that's a horse, especially if you get a square price, 10-1 on the morning line, ridden by Tyler Gaffleone this afternoon. Now the 9th race is a 6 furlong claiming event. Fillies 2-year-olds, they run for a $16,000 tag, and we do have a scratch in here of the number 2, Driving Mrs. B, will be declared out of the race. I went to the inside with the number 1, Calades, I think it's pronounced Calades, and this one is debuting locally after a couple of solid efforts on the Woodbine synthetic surface. There's the key. I don't know how this one's going to translate that form. She won her $20,000 career debut going 5 furlongs, then got in trouble, finished 4th, broke in with at the start at $40,000 level, going 6.5 furlongs last time out. Over the years, this is what we try and figure out. How do they translate from that synthetic surface up across the border to South Florida in their first start?
It's always very tough, especially going from synthetic to dirt here at Gulfstream. Oftentimes when I see the recipe for success is local works and a drop in class, because it just doesn't look like the competition stacks up if you're making a kind of a horizontal move here. Which this filly is doing.
Right.
She's dropping in class from open 40,000. She has a work over the local main track here at Gulfstream. Wasn't very fast, but she did get her feet over it. Overall, though, with Nick Gonzalez, we have a stat here on this horse with going from synthetic to dirt here at Gulfstream. He has only 11%, and it is a negative ROI. That said, he finishes in the money 46% of the time, and a lot of the times we see horses who get one race under their belt here, they go on and improve in their next start locally. So I took the wait and see approach with this horse, but doing all the right things for the recipe of success in my book.
Yeah, and that's it. It's always been a way that you try and do it. Now, you used the number 10 on top of your ticket.
I did, and going to the number 10, Savannah Smile to the outside. This 2-year-old filly, last time out, I just thought she was simply outclassed. Now, Ron, I will say this out front. I do not have a lot of confidence with any horse in this race. That's why I used 4 horses in this leg of the late pick 5. But I thought there's been moments of brilliance in her past performances, including a race 2 starts back that was against open $20,000 claimers when she sprinted, and even her maiden victory a few starts back. She just needs to show the ability to rate and kind of close, which she has been capable of doing before in the past.
There's a bunch of horses in here, one being Grandma Maria that knocked heads with each other last time. Let's quickly show that replay in here.
We'll go to Grandma Maria. Unfortunately, Driving Miss B is out of here. But Grandma Maria, you can see she actually got left a bit. And then she, unfortunately, we can see the number 1. She did not break well whatsoever. And unfortunately, when you're drawn the rail post position and you break poorly with a horse that figures to have speed, you're at a disadvantage from the get-go. So I thought the rider did a great job in not really rushing her, just kind of her letting her go fluidly and trying to get a decent position. But she did that, and if we could show from the quarter pole onward, with that early trouble, she overcame it to perfection, and she just kind of rallied from off of the pace and got up for the victory. And overall, she was the favorite that day. Thought she had a lot to overcome, and I respect her out of this performance versus others that she faces today out of that race.
Very game performance of that day, and I have her on the ticket for all those reasons and for what you just saw there. Anything else in this final, the 9th race, excuse me?
Well, just looking at the same race behind Grandma Maria, we have Lally to the outside, and she looked like one that might have been fading, but for what it's worth, a statistic here on Lally with Ramon Moya. First off the claim, he does well, and maybe this is one you want to use in a wide open field. With first off the claim with his dirt sprinters, he's 25% and a positive ROI of $2.46, finishing in the money 53% of the time. So although I wasn't really impressed by her last performance, he does move horses up off the claim.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, just a wide open race. If you went 4 deep, I know you would want to go 6 or 7, but that is not the case. You try and keep your ticket affordable. Race number 10, 7.5 furlongs. Claim is 3 and up, $20,000. Scratch the 6, 14, 15, and 16. I went with the 2 beneficiary, turning back to 7.5 after getting out kicked late, went 3rd, beaten a half length against 35 1.5 maidens going a mile and a 16th.
I definitely think this horse fits, and even the cut back slightly in distance from 2 mile and a 16th mile races, he could definitely figure, and he should be able to get a nice stalking trip to the inside. Sometimes that's all you want is an inside post position at 7.5 furlongs and a horse that's willing to close, and that is the case with that horse. But I did land on the 11, looking up to the outside for Timmy Hills, and we'll look at a statistic for the trainer with his turf horses going from routes to sprints. He's 7 for 54, but 13%. And with those 7 victories, Ron, they're paying. It's not like he had a huge $30 horse. They've been paying $6, $7, $8, sometimes $3. So they're just well placed. And I think this horse on the cut back slightly will make his late kick a little bit more potent. Unfortunately, he will need a little bit of help on the front end.
He'll need a little bit from the front, and that's the reason I flip-flopped him. We got the logical 2 in there, and I also used the 12, and so did you, and that's Crafty Kitten, a son of productive turf side. Kitten's Joy debuting locally from Mike Maker. Lasix added Antonio Gallardo, tough outside post. The barn, here's the thing, 0 for 31 with the debut maiden claimers. I know you had some stat that you wanted to show.
We do. This is a maiden claimer, first-time starters here on the turf. So first-time starters, not the greatest stat, but first-time starters on the turf against maiden claiming company, not so bad, Ron. 22% and still positive ROI. When you can get a positive ROI betting Mike Maker horses, you always want to use them. And you look at the pedigree by Kitten's Joy. He's out of an unraced mare, but is a half-brother to a horse that was a 3-time winner outside of the U.S., did win on turf and dirt. So maybe one to use, but not an easy ask from that outside post position for a first-time
Yeah,
starter.
really tough post. So we'll see how that plays out. 7.5 furlongs, you mentioned that short run to the first term. They keep giving the signals to get the heck out of it, so I guess we got to get
Let's
the
stop
heck.
talking.
Okay.
What do I love about horse racing? Everything.